Hi Tanglers, this is Rami Marks, your Tangled Yogi. This morning I had a little mishap. I was trying to get over the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge and there was an accident on the bridge and I was unable to get to class. So if you are any of my Tanglers from class, this video is for you. I hope you enjoy it and hopefully it won't freeze up. Hey, haha, everybody in class with me and my technology. This is a chance for us to try technology without it fouling things up and making things better. So let's take a nice deep breath in, let it go with a sigh, and let's tangle, baby. So today's class is going to be a really fun one. I'm really excited about it. This piece that you see in front of you is a combination of some Polynesian tangles, and you can see in the center here I've got this really interesting pattern, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, is it white pen? What is that? And what it is a embossing stylus that was used. Unfortunately, I have a little bit of junk on my embossing tools here, but you can see they're styluses that you press into the paper and create an indentation of a tangle, and then you color over it to make the tangles appear, and you'll see more of that later on in the video. So with that said, we've got this really fun class planned with a little bit of metallic ink to boot, and so let's do it. So I'm going to take this away here, and I'm just going to use a little bit of tape to hold my tile in place here, just because I know that the tiles like to slide around, and I can move it on my little tray when I need to. Okay, so I've got my beautiful rustic tiles. Tangled Yogi has their own tiles. Rick and Maria have something called the Renaissance tile, but I have the rustic tile. And I really like this. It's made out of really nice archival cardstock, and I hope you enjoy working with it. You can use tan paper if you just want to use tan paper. So yeah, there it is. So we're going to start by using our pencil. And like we always do, what we're gonna start with is the 4 dots, 1 dot in each corner. And then when you've got those 4 dots, go ahead and connect your lines as best as you can. And don't worry about making it perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then let go of that pen or that pencil, because it's time to go to pen. Now, because I'm working on a Renaissance tile today, I'm really wanting to work with an interesting pen color. We've done this a couple of times in class, and I happen to be using a blue micron. That's upside down. A blue micron there for you. You can use purple, you can use black, it doesn't matter. I'm just going with a colored micron this time, okay? So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start to make my strings now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out in this upper corner right here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to make a rounded line like so, and you can see that I'm just going to make a spiral like so, and there it is, right? So now you can pause me at any time. That's the great thing about this. If you want to look at this for a minute and copy it onto your page, you're welcome to do so. But otherwise, you are ready to move on. So with moving on here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to split the string. So I'm just going to come down here at the kind of the arc of the turn here, and I'm just going to come up and out. You can hear Mojo in the background. He hears a doggy down the street. So you can see how I just kind of broke off there, and that is creating that nice string here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up into my arc here, and I'm just going to come up and I'm going to swing out and come back in. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to come out and swing back in. Oops, I kind of missed the mark there. Once you've done that, you've got the basis for your tangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn my tile. So here I am again. I'm going from the same exact corner here, and I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to swing out And then once I've done that, I'll make my little swirl. And there it is, right? And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come down to the arc and I'll swing out like so. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to follow that line up, and this looks like a good place to jump out. So now I've got my focal point for my tangle here. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of dimension to that spiral by swinging up and out and coming back and in. And then I'll come back down here and I'll do the same exact thing, right? So now, if you need to pause me here, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and start to puddle. So I'm just puddling in with my inks. I'm working in that circular motion that I'm always talking about. Look at how my hand is moving that pen around. So I'm not getting scratchiness. I'm getting a really nice, soft, clean fill-in of that line. Can you see that? And then what I'm doing is I'm going ahead and I'm going to fill down in here as well, and that's going to give a little bit of dimension to my spiral here. Now I'm seeing this area right here and it's making me interested in doing a little bit more of a swing out. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to swing out, and then I'll come right back in again. And then right there, I'll go ahead and I'll start to puddle into that area. Now, just for the sake of going more quickly, I'm going to introduce you to a pen that I really, really love. This is the same exact pen color, but it's made by Micron and it's called a brush pen. And if we were at Riley Street, it would have taken you down that aisle. But since we're not at Riley Street, you can still continue to use the pen that you're using to finish filling in. But I'm just going to show you what this pen can do. You can see that it has kind of a brush-like quality to the tip. And so I'm going to go in there, and just for the purposes of, you know, moving along with the video, I'm just going to go ahead and fill it in. And you can see I'm still working in that circular pattern, getting a nice fill-in of that particular piece. I'll go over here now and I'll finish this guy off. So I'm just going in there and cleaning it up, and you can see I kind of broke the line there, no big deal. And then I'll go in here and I'll do the very same thing. Now some of you may decide, you know what, I think I really like working with the smaller Micron for this because it's easier to control, and that's totally cool. I totally understand that. It makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my small Micron here, and I'm just going to come up here and swing out and then swing back in again, just to make that side as wave-like as the other side, right? And then I'll come back in with my brush pen and I will fill it in. So I'm just working in that circular-like motion, keeping it nice and clean and easy. Notice if you're getting really determined, see if you can bring the breath back into your practice. And voila, there we are with our nice puddled in area. So we're going to start to tangle a little bit. I'm going to come back to my original Micron here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to aura, and aura means echoing the line that's above, right? So I'm going to aura this line that's right here. So you can see I'm just going to go slow and steady. So I know for a lot of you, you like to be like really speedy with your lines. Just take it nice and easy. Be methodical with it. You know, allow yourself to have a moment to just really enjoy what you're working with. You're working with nice pens, you're working with nice paper. You know, you're really taking the time to enjoy yourself. And that's really what Zentangle is all about. So if I was doing a really fast line, I'd be in a hurry. And this is anything but being in a hurry. I'm going to flip my tile so that it's easy for my hand because I am left-handed. And I'm going to go again. So for you, you may decide, oh, well, I'm right-handed, I'm going to do these out of the right-hand corner, and that's totally cool. Whatever works for you is totally amenable. So you can see that I'm not worrying too much about that border that's up there, that border right there. I don't really care because by the end of this, you're not even going to see it, which is why I don't use eraser. Hint, hint, somebody who's watching this video. I bet you're laughing right about now. So what I'm going to do is, now that I've got these nice borders, you can see I've got places in which to work in, which is really great. So I found this really fun pattern, and I think we're going to use it for this particular tangle today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to take my pencil, and I'm going to go in and just draw a line right down the middle of that spaced area. Can you see how I did that? So I have equal spacing on both sides, and then I come right back in here. This is just going to help me so that I know where I'm putting the tangle, and by the end of this you won't see it either. And I just did it really lightly. So I'm going back to my micron, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. Oops, I grabbed the wrong micron. You got to be careful about that. With those microns, they look exactly the same, except one says brush on it, one says micron on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right back in, and I'm going to go ahead now and start to build my tangle. So I'm going to start by coming up into this corner, and I'm going to make a triangle coming out of that corner. Can everybody see that? And then once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a diagonal line that comes out of the side there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in now and create another diamond. So you'll see, here it is, 1 and 2. See how that worked? So it looks like a diamond underneath that triangle. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come out, we're at the lower half of that, that diamond, by the way. And then I'm going to come down just a little bit, and I'll come right back in again. So I want you to think about looking to see how to make a diamond. It would look like there's a diamond underneath there, wouldn't it? So here I go again. I'm about halfway down. I'm making those diagonal lines. And then I'm going to come back in. And there it is. So it would look like a diamond coming out. Out. And then I'll come down a little bit, and I'll drop back in. Last one right here. Come out. And then I'll come back in. See how that worked? You know, I might be able to squeeze like half of one in here, so I'm going to try. There, it kind of looks like I've got half of one. The next part of this is that I'm going to go ahead and start puddling. See how I have these little triangles on the outside, right here and here? So I'm just going to make a little dot in the areas that I know I need to puddle in. That way I won't mess up. Not that there's any mess ups, there's only opportunities, right? So here we go. I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to puddle away. I'm going nice and light with my pen. Now, if you feel like you would like to switch over to your brush pen, you could switch over to your brush pen. Whoops. Runaway pencils. And then I'm just going to come in here with my brush pen and start to fill these in. Now remember, you can pause me at any time. This is a really nice way to do a class, because you know, if you need to stop and rewind and look at something, you're able to do that. So please take full advantage of it. And if we like these classes, we may do more of these online classes for you. And I'm just filling these in. So there's our first part. So guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna flip it and do it again on the other side. So I'm just gonna go back over, just like so. I'm gonna come back in with my handy dandy pencil. I'm gonna go right down the middle again. One, all the way down. So here I am, I'm making my triangle. One, two. See how the point of the triangle is lining up with that line right there? That's how this works. And so I'm gonna go out, out. I'll come down a little bit because there would be like a diamond point right about there. And I'm gonna come back in. Diamond point would be over there. And there it is, right? So I'm just gonna follow it all the way down. Coming back and out. One, two, back in, back in. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to puddle with my puddle pen. And this is where the video might speed up. If you need to pause, go ahead and pause. And there it is. So now we're going to switch. We're going to go into the opposite side here. So you can see I've got that nice space right in there. You can hear Tika in the background. She's moaning a little bit. So what I'm going to do is on this one, I'm going to start from this direction. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to make, excuse me, all I'm going to do is I'm going to make triangles coming out of that side. So there it is, just triangles coming out. Like so. Now what I'm going to do with this pattern is there's a beautiful Polynesian pattern that reminded me a little bit of betweed here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, just like that. 1, 2, 3, just like that. 1, 2, 3. You see, I could probably fit in another triangle there, or make it look like there's another triangle there. So then up here, I'm gonna just finish that one off, 1 and 2. Now, what I have on the other side is the same thing, but I'm not going to flip for it. I know kind of where I want to go. So since I have these 2 bars on this side and this one only has a singular, I'm going to add on those 2 bars to the other side. And I'll show you what that means. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, and then I'm going to add the bar 3. See how that happened? Same thing over here. 1, 2, I'm going to add 1 more bar. There it is, 3. Up here, I think I might just add in a couple of bars and just leave it at that, okay? So now we've got a really nice area in which to puddle in. See how I have these really nice triangles here? They're kind of vacant. I'm going to go in and puddle those, and I'm going to puddle those with my little brush pen. And if you want to do it with your regular pen, you can go ahead and do it with your regular pen. You may feel like you have more control with that regular pen. So just take your time with it. There's no rush. You can always pause me and then jump right back in it again. So there it is. So that's it without the shading. We'll come back and do the shading in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and flip my tile. Remember, you can pause me at any time, okay? So take your time. Don't feel rushed. I am at your beck and call here because I'm on video. So here I am. I'm going to go again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, and 2. Then I'm going to start in with laying down the bars here. We'll go 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 1. I'll add those bars over here. 1, 2, 1. Now I'm going to the other side. So see how there's 2 bars there and this guy only has the 1? I'm going to add the bars there. 1, 2, here comes the 1. There it is. 1, 2, here comes the 1. 1, 2, here comes the 1. There it is. So we've got it laid out for ourselves now. You can pause me at any time, so take it off if you need to. And then here I go with my brush pen. I'm just going to fill it in. And I'm going to go over here and do the same thing. So there you have it. There is the major portion of our tangling here. Now, you can see that I have these really nice areas out here and out here. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to, with my pencil first, just make a border. So I'm going to go up here and make a border. And then I'm going to come in here and make more of a border. And then I'll come up here and do the same thing. I'm going to do 1. And you can see it's not perfect. And you can see that I've got a little space that I can work with in there. It's not huge space, but it's a little bit of space. I'm going to go back in with my micron now. And I'm just going to fill that in what I like to call overdraw. Just so that I know where my hand is going. Just makes things a little bit easier. And then I'll do the same thing over here. 1, oh, you can see that I kind of strayed away from that line. I'm not worried about it. And then 2, I'm going to go across like so. So with that, we have this nice border, and I'll just come in here and I'll make that a little bit stronger with my pen. And I'll do the same thing up here. So we're going to continue to use triangles. Triangles are the theme of the day here. Triangles and diamonds, I guess. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a zigzag line going up and down. Now, you know, I'm gonna try to make my triangles a nice kind of wide triangle. The more narrow your triangles are, it's more work that you're gonna have to do, and it makes it harder to work inside of. Now see here how I'm in that corner? I'm just gonna keep going. I'm not gonna worry too much about it. I'm just gonna keep on moving on. So there's that over there. And then if I want to, I can take my tile and do the same thing again so that I make it easier on my hand. So there it is. Got that nice border in there now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take now this side of the triangle and let it be my guide. So watch me here. All I'm going to do is echo that line. So I'm just going to go and go like so. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now notice I'm not being cavalier about the way I'm doing my lines. I'm taking my time and just working it out, right? If you go fast, your lines will reflect it, right? If you go nice and slow, your lines will reflect that too. So really enjoy yourself while you're doing it. Now here's the other part right here. See how I've got that line right there? So I'm just gonna go ahead and let that be my guide. So the upper triangles are gonna go in that direction. So those will go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now I've got this guy over here, so I'm thinking to myself, which way do I want those lines to go? See how those lines are moving in that direction? I'm going to go perpendicular, and that way I know which way to go. All right. Now I'm over in this corner right here, and I need to figure out what's going to happen in here, right? So I think what I'm going to do is, because those lines are moving in that direction, I'm going to go in the opposite direction. See how that worked out? So then I'll turn my little tile here, and I'm going to come right back in, and then I'm going to go ahead and start to use that line again. So I'll use this line right here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I think I'll just pretend on this side. Now you'll notice that there's a border here that I'm not going into. I like to break it up, so if you wanted to go all the way around, you can, but I'm going to add some tipple in there later. Oh yeah, I said it. I'm going to do it, so it'll happen. A little bit of tipple we'll add later. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go the opposite direction. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. See how that worked? Let's do that on the opposite side. Okay, and I may speed up the video here. I'm not exactly sure if I can, so I'm gonna do my darndest. Here I go. So. Getting into that corner right there. Once I've gotten into that corner, I need to decide which way I want to go. So because these are going this way, I want to go that way. So I'm just going to go right down that way. And then that way, I can go in here and just, and that's just fine. See how that worked out? I think that worked out pretty well. I'll do now. Right, and then here I go over here. Last one. There it is. Oh, well, let's get that little guy in that corner there. Okay, so now we've got the border, which is really lovely. Okay, so really nice pattern here, really pretty. We've been working with the microns. We're going to stick with them for one more minute. What we're going to do is we're going to add tipple, and I'm going to do some large tipple today, and I'm only going to do 3 on each side because we like to work in odd numbers. It's more interesting for the eye. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1 tipple here. I'm going to do a smaller tipple here, and then I'm going to do a medium tipple there. I'm going to come over to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a larger tipple, a smaller tipple, and a medium tipple. And that's it for my tipples today. Haha. All right. So we've gotten through the majority of it. You have your basic tangle in there. Now I'm going to introduce you to the piece that I was so excited about with today's class. Now you can do this one of 2 ways. You can take an old pen that has run out of ink. Those are always really helpful. Or you can use what they call an embossing stylus. You can get these at Michael's. You can even get them on Amazon, I'm sure. I'm not sure that this is going to show up entirely on our video, so here's hoping. So most of you know the tangle Printemps. And we are going to do that tangle right now. And what it looks like is I'm going to, you can either take an old pen, so this pen is out of ink, and you can see the nib on that is really tough and strong. If I push into it, it would actually hurt a little bit. And so it would make a nice impression on the paper. But because I have the stylus today, I'm going to use that instead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do spirals and press into the paper pretty hard, not hard enough to tear the paper, but you can see that it's making an impression. Can you see that? See how that made an impression into the paper? So I'm going to do a bunch of Printemps into the paper. And you know how I like to vary up the size. So, you know, if you do a large one, do a small one, and then do a medium one. So really vary it up and play with it. So you can see that I'm just pressing in enough to make it do that impression all the way through. And don't work too small, because if you work really small, this is going to end up hurting your hand if you work really small. So really make sure that you do big ones first and then little ones to fill it in. And I just thought it was such an interesting way to work with Zentangle by adding a different type of medium, you know? We don't always do embossing, and it's not seen a whole lot, but there's a gal in Spain, I believe her name is Maria, and she is just a fantastic teacher. She's created a school for Zentangle in Spain, and so people just come to her school and take classes. I'd like to go out there and take a class at her school on a vacation. I think it'd be fabulous. I need a reason to go to Spain, right? So here it is. I've got my entire page filled up with those indentations, and hopefully you can see that. I'm trying to zoom in a little bit for you so you can see that. So what I'm going to do now that I have that is I've got 2 pencils, and you know how I like to work, right? I love to work with light and dark. So I've got a blue and a light blue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my light blue first, and I'm going to work on the side of my pencil. And remember, if you need to pause at any time, go ahead and do so. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to circle through here, and I'm on the side of my pencil, and you can see that I'm just using the side of that pencil in a circular like motion here. And as I kind of roll through, you can start to see the printemps emerging into the piece. See how those circles are starting to emerge themselves into the piece. I'm just working in that circular-like motion. My tension is like a light tension, so it's not a heavy tension. It's a nice, soft tension. Maybe a medium. I would say maybe it's a medium tension, just enough to get... Can you see how the printemps is emerging? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my darker pencil and I'm going to go with that medium tension too, and I'm working on the side of the pencil. And can you see how it's starting to emerge even more? You can see as I'm moving through that it's starting to come through. So as I bring this up, you can see that. It's really interesting, isn't it? So once you have that, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the borders a little bit more. So you can see that I'm bringing a little bit more intensity into the borders here. Let's see how that's really starting to merge and bring those spirals into play here. So neat. I just really thought that was so beautiful. And then I'm just going to bring it on over here. You can see I'm working in that circular-like motion with my pencil. It's kind of smoky the way that I'm letting it come in. I'm just shading all around the perimeter with that medium tension. I'm just going to keep on turning my tile just to help that emerge a little bit more. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with that heaviest tension right around the outside edge, right? I'm just really bringing in that deepest tension. I'm going to come around out here. Isn't that so neat the way that that happened? I just think that's so cool. I really enjoy that. And if you're really good at embossing, you can do really neat patterns with it if you feel really strong with it. Now finally, what I like to do with the embossing is I'm going to use a white Prisma pencil, and most of the sets that are sold with Prismas all come with white. So if you have a color set, you probably have a white in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that white pencil on a light tension and it's acting like a blender pencil. White is always a good blender if you have, like, you know, hard edges or something like that and you want. Okay, so I lost power there for a second, but I'm back now. And so I'm just kind of finishing up a little bit. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna continue to let that white blender pen go white blender pencil go all the way through to create this kind of glowing like center in the middle of the piece itself. And you can see that I'm just kind of working in that circular like motion. I'm not being too careful with it and just letting it get very glowy in the center. So there's that really neat embossing technique that I really fell in love with, and I plan on doing it in a lot more of my pieces just because I think it is so interesting looking. It even shimmers a little bit. I don't know if that comes across in the video or not. Now I recognize that I used my blue in the center, so I'm going to use my green inside of my my tangles here. I had meant to do it the opposite way, but this is Zentangle and anything goes, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my lightest color, my chartreuse color here, and I'm just going to start to circular color down that first piece here that we started with the diamonds. And you can see that I'm just running it through. I'm not being overly cautious with it. I'm just kind of having a good time with it. Right? And you can see that just laying that color down. And I'm hoping that the color is coming across on video a little bit better than it does on my projector in class. Have that pretty green. It's just got such an interesting pop to it. And then once I've done that green, you know, I do like to work in pairings here, and I've got this really pretty apple green that I'm gonna work with. You may even decide that you like to work with like a forest green. Let me see if I can find a nice forest green that might be a nice option. So you can see I've got that forest green too if I need to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with that medium green here, and see how I'm at this diamond point right here? What I'm going to do is I'm going to shade underneath that diamond point, and you can see that it looks like it's laying a shadow over the top of it, right? I'm working in that circular motion. I'm going about halfway down. And then what I'm going to do, because I noticed that that medium green isn't going to cut it, I'm going to add just a little bit of that darker green. And you can see that just by adding a little bit more of that darker green, it really starts to pop. See how that works? So I'm going to do that all the way down all of these, okay? So if you need to pause me at any time, go ahead and do so. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep on moving on. So there it is. Look at how pretty that pops. Just really jumps off the page. I just thought it was such a gorgeous tangle, and I really wanted to share it with you. And then I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to start in with this tangle, just so that we know what we're going to do when we get to the other side. So once again, I'm going to use the same colors. I've got my little trifecta here. So I'll start with the chartreuse first, and I'm just going to do a little bit of blending, or soft laying down of that chartreuse color. And you can see I'm not being overly perfectionistic about it. I'm just laying it down, working in that circular motion, keeping it nice and soft. And once I have that, then I'll go in with my apple green. So what I want you to keep in mind here for this particular tangle is where the shadows are going to be. So one of the things that I really like about this tangle is you can see where the shadows would be. See how I've got those two heavy lines and they're stacked right over that? That's kind of where I want to have my shadows be. Okay, so I'm going to go in here, and maybe this is a better place to kind of show it off here. So I've got these two heavy lines, and then I've got this area here. So I'll just come in, and I'm just going to go about halfway down with that medium tension. And then I'm going to go back in with my darker green, and I'm just going to let it float over the top of that. See how that makes that pop a little bit? So I'm going to go and do that again over here. So here's my top green pieces. I'm going to let them lay that shadow down. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go in with that dark green and lay that down. And then I'm going to look for it over here. I'll go in with the dark green, give that dense shadow there, and then I'll look for it here again, right? So here's where there would be a little dark green. And it looks like I need to fill in that little triangle right here because I missed it. You know, there's always one of those lone tangles that gets left out, right? So the same thing can be said for on the other side. So what I'm doing is on the other side now, I'm looking for those bars where the light is, and I'm just going to lay down a little bit more of that darker color right underneath it. So I'm looking for the two bars. I'm going to lay that color down. And you can see I'm just doing this with the forest green on this side. You can, you can use that as your light green and your dark green if you like. I'm just going with a medium tension and then doing a heavier tension. So you can see that that gives it a little bit of pop. I think I will go in with my apple green a little bit just to blend it in a little bit. And hopefully that was pretty clear. But you can see how now that kind of has a shimmer to it, doesn't it? I think it's quite lovely. I thought it was a really cool tangle, and I would definitely use that in other pieces as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this side, and I'm going to try to speed up the video so that it's a little bit faster for you, but you can pause me at any time, okay? So I'm just going to flip my tile here. Here I go. That should be in the middle for you. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'll probably stop chatting. can see that I've left out a couple of pieces here. So I'm just gonna add to them. So here we are, and we've got these beautiful pieces going here. We've got this side and this side, really working out quite nicely. So I'm gonna start to introduce a little bit more to the piece here. I'm gonna add a third color into the mix, and you may decide that you want to just leave it more simplified, or you may decide that you want to add more color to the mix. It's up to you what you decide to do. I'm going to add a really pretty light purple, kind of like a pinkish purple to my my piece here. And so what I plan on doing is using a little bit of the pinkish purple and a little bit of a darker purple. So I've got those two together. So what I'll do is I'll be working with the tipple here, and I'm just going to go in with the tipple and use the pink in there. And you can see that I'm not doing a really heavy tension on it. I'm just doing kind of a medium tension, and I've only shaded about half of it. I'm leaving that light, or maybe 3/4 of the way of it. Sorry about that. And then I've got that now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in now with my darker purple, and I'm just going to use a medium tension with that, not heavy, just a medium tension, and just kind of help fill that in a little bit. And then I'll go with a darker tension just on the outside edge. Now here's the trick here. I'm gonna go in now with my white pencil, and I'm gonna try to blend it in a little bit. See how that worked out? See how that gives it a little bit of a blended feeling to it? And if you lose your definition, you can always go back in again and start to clean up that color a little bit. It kind of makes that tipple look like it pops off the page really quite nicely. So I'll go back in with that purple and do medium tension and a medium tension over here as well. And then I'll go in with that white pencil. And you can see that that really made the tipple kind of sparkle off the page. So I'm just going to turn this here and go do the other side. And then I'm going to go ahead and add that white in there. See how that pops? It's really quite lovely. So there you go. There's your tipple out there, which is pretty cool. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in with these lines right in here. See how I've got those lines in here? I'm holding on to a really neat silver pen. Now, some of you guys may have the jelly pens, and they have a really pretty silver. They also have a pretty gold. I really like these Signo pens. Is that, let's see here if that's the right way. Yeah, there it is. I really like these pens a lot. I think they're great. So if you're looking for a good metallic pen, this is a good metallic pen for you. And mine is silver. So I'm just going to go in and start to lay down a little bit of that silver ink into that space and really start to let that metallic shimmer come into it. So you can see how pretty that looks. It has a real nice elegant pop to it, which I think is quite lovely. And I don't tend to use a lot of metallics in my work, but every once in a while I do get a little smitten with these things because I do think that there is a time and a place for every tool, right? So there's that piece right there, and now I'm starting to get into where the blue is. I'm letting that come down. Now you could decide to add a little shimmer like inside of your little loop-de-loo, and watch what happens when I add a little bit of shimmer to that. It kind of makes it look like there's light in that part of the tangle. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of that there. And then I'll flip my page, and you can really see the difference between the side that had the silver and the side that doesn't have the silver. So there it is. I'm just going up the page with that. And I'm, you know, working that circular motion like I always talk about. You know, I try not to be really scratchy with my work. I try to be really clean and smooth with it. I don't know why, I just prefer it. But if you're trying to express emotion in your piece and you want your work to have a little bit of edginess, that is totally fine too. Do not let me stop you from expressing yourself. So I'll go in and I'll add a little shadow there and a little shimmer there. And I can see once again, I have a little lone tangle that kind of got away from me. So I'll just grab that guy while I can. So there we've kind of filled in with the metallic, which is really quite lovely. And if you wanted to do more with your metallic, you could even go into your triangles and add metallic into your triangles, which might be kind of neat. And then you could go over to the other side too and add some metallic. I did this a little differently than I did the other one, just because you know, this is where my dark pieces are, but like here, let's see here, you can see that I laid down some metallic going down the sides of these, so, or down and around these, but I did mine in blue and did the green in the center. So, you know, when you do different colors, sometimes it requires a different approach. So because I did mine this way, I'm just going to continue moving in this direction. And I kind of like it because they're going to echo each other, which will be really nice. Look at how nice that looks. Really pops off, I think. So I'll come down here and I'll do the exact same thing. Just kind of lay that down in there. Those guys almost got away from me a little bit. But you can see how pretty that is with the metallic. It's really quite lovely. I like that a lot. So you can see now that I've got these spaces in which to work in, here and here. And so I'm going to continue to work with the idea of working with the stylus, but you may decide that you want to do something different, and that's totally up to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and start to make more of our spirals here. So I'm starting with big spirals first. And you know, you can really separate them out and start doing like big spirals and then fill in with the little spirals. That's another really nice technique for printemps, in my opinion, because then it forces you to vary up the sizes. It's easy for the mind to get stuck in the same size shape. And so, you know, you can kind of decide what you want to do with that. So I'm doing some big ones first. You can see I'm really kind of pushing down on that. Can you see those? See how that indentation is working? Really neat. And then I'm going to go back in and just finish them off with the smaller ones. Now what's going to be cool about this is these tipple will look like they're on top of the printemps, which will be really pretty. So I'm going to go back in with my blue like I did before, and I'm just going to rub that around. And I think I might have to go back in and just add a couple of printemps inside of my spiral head here, because I want it to have some of that really neat indentation in there. And then I'll start to go a little bit heavier with my pencil there. You see, I'm just working around all of that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in now with my darker color, and it'll really start to show up. Isn't that so cool, right? And then I'll go a little bit heavier. And then finally, I'm going to go in with that white blender pencil. And I'm not touching that piece here. And if I do get in there, I want to make sure that I don't touch it too much, because I want it to look like it's on top, right? I really do. And it really does, doesn't it? It looks like it's on top, which is so pretty. So there it is. And then I'll go over here and I'll do the same thing. Just working on the side of that pencil. And once again, I think I want to add just a little bit inside of here because I neglected to add it. And then I'll go in with my pencil. And so I'll go a little heavier around the edge. And you can see that I'm going a little heavier around the edge right in there. And then I'll go in with even darker. Taking a little deep breath because I was feeling a little bit perturbed about what happened this morning. And all you can do is just breathe it out, right? Because if you hold it in, it's just no good. I was just taking a little letting go breath. Letting go of not being able to be with you guys, even though I really wanted to be with you. Voila, a little bit more dimension, a little bit more coolness, right? So finally, this is the last part. We've got these beautiful borders here, and I do love those. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna lightly shade with my pink, or that, it's kind of that purple that we used on the tipple. It's the same purple. So I'm just gonna use that and shade it in. You can see I'm not being overly careful about it. I'm just laying down that color. I'm relaxed. I'm not really holding my pencil too tight. I know that I tend to, like when I'm getting really into something, I'll hold on to the pencil really tight. I'm not doing that. And so then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little bit of heavier tension on that outside edge. See how that's working out? How that center is now starting to look like it's lighter. See how that worked? I'm gonna just hold this up to there. Can you see how that inside area looks like it's lighter? And I'm gonna do the same thing over here. I'm just going down each side. Just like so, and then watch. I'm gonna go in with that white pen, and it gives it that glow that is so cool. Isn't that so neat? I just love that. It just makes me so happy. Who knew that white pencil could make you so happy, but it makes me happy. So there you have it. It's pretty darn cool. I really do love this idea, this piece. If you wanted to add a little shading underneath your tipples, you could do that. You know, I'm gonna just go in right here and just add a little shadow to it, just to give it a little depth and dimension. You don't have to do that if it doesn't appeal to you. I think it just kind of makes it look like it's starting to like pop off the piece a little bit. And I'll turn my piece upside down and go to the other side and just add a little bit of shadow on that side too. And then once you've finished your piece and you feel like you've completed, you know, you can look for any lines that are kind of needing cleanup. Like this line needed a little bit of cleanup right there. You know, you just look for places that maybe you weren't so succinct in your puddling and clean that up a little bit. Any spots that you feel like you need to add to give it a little bit of oomph, to make it pop. Once you've done that and you feel like you're finished, you want to sign your piece with an initial, or sometimes they call it your maker's mark. And so my maker's mark is just the R, but I do 2 lines and then I cross over to make my little R there. 3 dots. And there you have it. That was the class that I had planned for you today. I hope you feel very zen and relaxed. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at tangledyogi@ramiart.com. And I'm wishing you a more zen day. Have a good one.